All right, crew, thanks for joining me today. The goal of this video is to teach you how to integrate OBS Studio, virtual cables, and the new OBS monitor audio function into Zoom to make your lectures, your classes, absolutely stellar and engaging online. Cool, let's take a look. All right, crew, so we're going to start looking at OBS now, and maybe some of the scenes that I have set up, and I'm going to share with you how to do this, okay? Now, the idea is to make class more stimulating, more engaging, and encourage discussion, okay? And that's really what I think I've tackled this semester at USC, was just adding some spark, some life, some enthusiasm to my lectures, and it was really easy to do, all right? So the first thing I did was I created a couple scenes in OBS, and you'll have to download OBS too. You can just Google search OBS, do the create the latest download, and this is what OBS looks like. Now I've already created quite a few scenes here, but I wanted to show you what it looks like so that I can teach you how to set this up. So here I have this starting screen, and I have some audio playing in the background, this little video playing in the background, and some static text just saying that we're starting soon. And it's some nice lively audio to kind of get the groove going, kind of get, things starting, right? So it's kind of upbeat and enthusiastic. And from here, what I would do is I would transition to my Just Me screen. There we go. You can see me now. By the way, I would normally have this OBS screen on my monitor that's right underneath the camera. That way, if I was going to look at a student or to see what my students were doing, I could take my eyes off the camera, right? And then look down towards my students to see how the engagement's kind of going, what they're doing, and then back up to the camera when I wanted to have that conversation, or just talk about lecture, or talk about whatever I want to talk about. So, and then for the sake of sharing my OBS, I'm doing this in 4K, so I decided to use this screen as opposed to my 1080 screen on the right hand side. So yeah, this is what I look like, I guess, when we're capturing audio. And what this scene actually is a combination of my mic, my Sony camera, my options to include my right monitor, and my main display capture, which would be a capture of this screen actually, and then some other widgets that we're going to talk about later. And so you can imagine that OBS is your virtual camera. In fact, when I go to my right screen, you can see my internet browser that I wanted to share some information with you later. Then I can go to my Be Right Back screen if we're going to take a quick break, or a bio break scene, rather. And then like my starting soon scene and so on. This is my full main screen, so you would see my desktop and then a little version of me down here on the right hand side to both make sure that, if I'm engaging with my students about something on the screen, then I can hold something up on camera and then show them maybe a widget. Let's just say, let the camera focus on the widget. There's something unique about this design, etc., etc. Here's how you would make this, etc., etc. Then come back and talk about that thing on screen again. So that's kind of fun. Likewise, if I was going to have maybe a longer conversation, what I could do is switch back to the me screen, have that conversation, then switch back to the full screen, and then go back to lecture. So I'm going to teach you how to make these scenes right now, okay? And keep in mind, OBS is nothing more than like a virtual audio connector or a virtual video connector, okay? So instead of using your video inside of Zoom, you use OBS. Instead of using your audio in Zoom, your traditional like microphone audio, you use your virtual cables. We're going to cover both these things today. The good news is the video is actually relatively easy. Let me show you what this looks like. So we're going to go ahead and create a new scene from scratch here. And then we're going to add our camera. So I'll go ahead and add my web camera, which happens to be my Sony a7 III. And I already have my Sony listed, but for the sake of showing you how this is done, we'll go ahead and create a new capture device. Click OK. And this capture device is going to be my capture card, which is how my camera communicates to my computer via USB, which is what a normal webcam does. So chances are you just be selecting a webcam here. All right. Then you can go down and select your custom settings for like resolution. I'll do 4K, and then I'll go ahead and match my 30 frames per second. My video format's going to be XRB because I like that color spectrum better. And then my color space 709, which happens to be the default also. But the one thing you want to make sure you turn off, partial is actually preferred here too. But the one thing you want to turn off is buffering. So you just want to disable buffering. And what this will do is this will eliminate your mouth from moving, right? And then the audio coming in like slightly ahead or slightly before, actually slightly ahead. So the audio comes and then your mouth moves and the audio cuts off and your mouth's still moving. And it's kind of a bummer, right? So we've successfully added our camera, and all I'm going to do is scale this down because Zoom can't handle 4K, right? So I'm just going to fit this to my 1080 screen and make it look as good as I can. Go ahead and bring this down just a little bit, a little touch there. Nice. Maybe I'll move my camera just to recenter my scene in the background. And yeah, this looks pretty good. So I kind of dig this. And so I would name this screen like main camera or lecture mode, right? The other thing I need to do is add an audio device here so that we can capture the audio from OBS and any audio that plays in OBS and then bring it to our students. So I'm going to click the add button and I'm going to add a audio input capture. We'll just create a new one. Again, I have my traditional mic here, but we'll just click audio input capture. And then we're going to select our microphone. And that's my Blue Yeti microphone. Perfect. That's what we want. And we've created our first scene to both include audio and video. All right. Now, this doesn't mean that that audio is going out to Zoom yet. We'll get there. But this is what we need to do to set it up. This is like part of the scene setup. So I'm going to create another scene where it's just me in the lower right-hand corner, and I'm going to share my desktop. So I'm going to click the add button again. Or you know what's even cooler is I can go back to my scene. I can right-click and copy my camera. And then I can paste it in my scene, my new scene. And then that's kind of already in there. So that's tackle 1. But I need to resize this to make it much smaller so that it fits like in the lower quadrant of my screen here. Cool. Looks good. All right. So the next thing is to add a desktop capture or a monitor capture. So here's my display capture rather. Whew, messed that up 3 times. And I'm going to go ahead and click and add this in there. I'm going to choose what display to capture next. I think I'm going to select right by selecting this second one. There we go. That's my right-hand screen monitor. And we'll click OK. And then you'll notice that your face disappeared. And that's because these work off layers. So if I want my audio to be on the top layer or my video to be on the top layer, then I just need to move it up. And then now you'll be able to see yourself in there. So again, having that conversation about something maybe on the web, and then you kind of in the lower right-hand corner makes it perfect. The last thing we need is the audio. Again, we can copy the audio from scene 2 and then kind of paste it in scene 3 to kind of make our life easier. If you had other audio that wanted to take precedence over other audio, you'd want to put it higher in the list, right? So depending on how many audio devices you have. So cool. We've created our second scene of our virtual camera. Let's go ahead and create one more scene. We'll call this like a be right back screen. And on this guy, what we're going to do is just add a image. So we'll go ahead and add an image. I already have some images selected, but if you just add an image, you browse to it, right? Then you can make this really easy. I'm just going to go ahead and add one of the images that I've already created because it's just an image. This part's pretty easy. All right, we'll go ahead and existing image. We'll grab image 2, click OK. We'll fit this to the screen. This was also shot in, I think, 4K, which is why it's really big in comparison to our design space or our virtual space here. And I get pretty lucky with some of these photos that I make. That looks pretty darn good. So this is like our be right back screen. The next thing we're going to do is add some text. Select like a text 2 that I've already created. And this is kind of telling the class that, hey, we're on break. We'll be back in 5 minutes or so. And this is my break screen. And so now what I've done is I've created 3 virtual scenes for my virtual camera in OBS. So I can transition 1 easy to myself. And then 2 to like my screen 3, talking about maybe something that's on the web or YouTube video or something to discuss. Or a PowerPoint that would also be on, my right-hand screen. So imagine me putting a PowerPoint over here on the right-hand side and then talking about it and then being seen on the lecture in addition to, which is pretty nice. And then taking our break scene, okay? So all 3 of these are essentially what we can transition to over and over again and really add some pizzazz, right, to our Zoom lecture. But we're not done yet because there's a lot of setup that has to go on in addition to this. This is kind of configuring OBS. Let's jump into Zoom now and let's talk about what we need to do as far as pointers go in Zoom, what we need to point our microphone to, what we need to point our speakers to. So I'm going to hit the Windows key and type in Zoom just real quick, bring up the Zoom app and hit the cog icon in the upper right-hand corner to pull up our settings. So when I go to the audio settings, I'm going to make my speaker cable B and then my microphone cable A. So these are actually virtual cables that you will need to download. And if you type in virtual cables inside of Google, right, you'll get this to pop up first. It's really popular. I'm going to go ahead and share my right-hand screen so that you guys can see what that looks like. This is my virtual audio cable. Now you can get one audio cable for free. I suggest you go for the dual audio cable, which is the A and B cable. You have to make a donation for like $4.60 to get both of these, but I think it's totally worth it. And it's one of the small costs of this whole project, right? There's not a whole lot of costs associated with this, as OBS is free and the virtual cables are nearly free, just a small donation, but this will help streamline things really easily. So once you download those and install those, then in Windows, what you're going to see is virtual audio cables in your sound settings. So we have our playback device is just my normal Yeti speaker, the speaker from my Yeti microphone, and my recording device is just my Yeti microphone. You can see me pinging it right now. So this is all normal, and that way when OBS turns off, like, you don't have to change anything as far as Windows is concerned. Everything here still works. So when I go to my playback devices, what you'll see if you've done this correctly is your cable A and your cable B. And then same thing in recording, you'll see cable A and cable B. Now there's nothing you have to do in addition to these, right? These are just placeholders for us to send and push audio to. So once they're installed, you kind of got half the battle taken care of there. So again, in Zoom, once you've installed those cables, you're going to go ahead and make your speaker cable B and make your microphone cable A. Now what's really great about Zoom is they have these little test options so that when you're near the end of this video and you got everything dialed in, or you think you got everything dialed in, you can go through and do the speaker test that maybe you can hear everything, and then the mic tests that you can hear yourself in the mic, right? So both of these are kind of convenient. And once you got that tackled in Zoom, then you're good on the audio side for Zoom. And now we need to work on the audio side for OBS and what that looks like. So it turns out that downloading OBS isn't enough. You need one other plugin. It's called Audio Monitor. And you'll have to download this. But what this allows us to do is take audio that's coming into OBS and then send it to other places. And I can send it to as many places as I want. I just select a monitor file and send it to somewhere else. Monitor file, send it to somewhere else. Now this is going to allow us to send the audio that's playing back in OBS, 1, to our ears, and then 2, to our students via Zoom. So you'll have to download this and then add in this plugin, and you'll restart OBS, and then this new audio monitor filter will be available. So I'm going to switch back to the me icon, right, which is now my scene that controls me here. But really what I want to do is go to the scene that we created together. Slightly different, actually. So in order for the audio to get kicked out to both our students and to us, we have to add these audio filters in. So I'm going to right click my audio filter, or my audio input capture. I'm going to go to filters, and then I'm going to select a new, select audio monitor, give it a name, and then I'm going to point it to cable A. Now remember, this is cable A is what's going into Zoom via our virtual microphone, our virtual audio cable, right? So not just our mic, but anything else that happens to come to the mic, like desktop audio. And then I'm going to add another audio monitor device to then take this sound, or whatever sound comes from this, and then push it back to my ears. Now this is really nice if you don't have a like a physical audio manager, like a physical audio device, like a Focusrite or a Focusrite Scarlett, or like what I have built into my Yeti mic, like an audio managing tool, which does this automatically. But what you can do then is send the audio back to your speakers, which is my audio, which is my headsets, right? And it allows me to hear myself just slightly, because I would turn the volume down, so I could just slightly hear myself to make sure that I'm not muted. So when I put my headphones on, which are a closed back, right? These headphones are are really, really awesome. I really like these things. But when I put my headphones on and I'm not muted, what I can hear myself, right? So that's good. And you can hear the echo now. So I actually got to turn this off. Remove. Yes. Okay, because I was hearing myself twice. Because my headphones play it back and then my audio plays it back. So depending on how you have this set up, right, you may or may not need this. If you're using speakers, you definitely don't want that second option. But we're going to need it for other things. But just something to be aware of. So our audio is coming out. My microphone's playing the audio back in my ears, which is like really convenient. Now, if I'm muted, so what I was saying there was when my audio is muted, I just hear the reverberations from my voice and not what my voice sounds like. But that the audio is coming back, it's looped back through the microphone, then I can hear what I sound like. This is a really great way for me to make sure that I'm not muted accidentally. Or if for some reason I lose connection to Zoom, I'll know instantly because then I can't hear what I'm saying via Zoom. So it's really nice to have this. And I would suggest that everyone use headphones. Even the simplest headphones will work. You don't have to go, for the IDs, but these are really nice. I gotta tell you. I'm gonna take these off now because I don't need them. Right? There's no one talking back to me from Zoom. I'm just doing this one-on-one. So that's how we get to point the audio back to our students. So that's step number one, right? The next thing is if we go to like this option 3, we'd also want to make sure that this filter's there. Now, since I copied this, it's going to be there, right? Since I copied input capture from scene 2 to scene 3, and they're essentially the same thing. Anything I apply to capture 2 gets affected in both scenes, which is kind of nice. And then we have our Be Right Back screen. So the next thing we have to do is we have to tell OBS to enable this audio to get sent out. So we pointed it in the right direction. Now we need to flip the switch on. So what we're going to do is go to our input capture. We're going to right click our settings and then go to filter. Oh, not filters. Sorry. We're going to right click this and go to advanced properties. And then we're going to turn this on to monitor and output. Now, it turns out if I do this, it's going to duplicate my audio, which is going to sound terrible. So I'm not going to turn it on, but you need to turn that on as an example. The other thing that we want to do too is we want to make sure that our desktop audio is being looped, which means that when I go to this cog icon and go to advanced properties and I look at desktop audio, you also want that to say monitor and output. Okay, so that's the step 2. That way, anything that's coming through your computer, one, you hear, but then also your students hear too, which is convenient. Okay, so now let's add some of the extras, all right? We've added the monitor files. We've pointed the audio in the right direction. We've told OBS to output things and monitor those audio outputs. And now what we need to do is add some flair, I suppose. So a lot of the time when I'm like giving lecture, and we're talking about something and I ask a question, it's tough to get an answer. So one of the things I like to add are like little audio clips that kind of perk the interest of the students. So I'll hit this little plus icon. I'm going to go to a media source. I'm going to create a new one, even though I already have the one I want, which is the Bueller one. So I'll go ahead and click add. I'm going to browse for my files. That's just this short little media clip. And there's tons of them online. You can see the last one I did was Porky the Pig. This is like a cool outro one, right? So it's like at the end of class, instead of saying, it's the end of class, you would have this little cartoon pop up and be like, that's all, folks, Sounds better when the cartoon says it, not me, but you get the idea. So you can select these audio files, audio or video files. And I'm looking for the Bueller one that I've created. There we go. And this happens to just be an MP4. So I'll just select all files and click open MP4 and then click open. And then now that's a media source that we can play. So I can turn this on. And when I turn it on, it'll say Bueller, straight from the movie, right? And the students will get the cue to, hey, come on, let's get our act together. So again, I need to point this in the right direction too. So I'm going to add my filters, go ahead and grab my audio monitor. I'm going to point this to my cable A, which is what the students are hearing. I'm going to hit the add monitor and then go secondary monitor. And I want to be able to hear this too to make sure it's working. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back to my speakers, which are my headphones, which comes through my Yeti Pro, right? So then I click close, and now when I play that, I'll be able to hear it. Okay, so this will be like Bueller. Oh, I linked the wrong audio. It's actually or Believer. So, but you get the idea, right? We'll do one more real quick. So we'll do a video one. So I'm going to add a media source, and I'm going to go ahead and I did Believer instead of Bueller, but you get the idea. I'm going to add another media source, and we'll find that Porky the Pig one this time because that's just kind of easy. And I'll go to my overlays. I'll find Porky. Where are you? Porky the Pig. Grab that little video file, throw it in. It shows that it's linked here, so that's good. And then it shows that little video clip shows up in the resolution that it was recorded at, but I can go ahead and put that in the upper right hand corner. And you get this little cartoon that shows up and it says, "That's all, folks." And it ends. And you just saw me move it and relocate it in my OBS as far as where it shows up every time I click the button on and off. So here's me clicking it on again, and the video plays just fine. Now we need to link the audio, point the audio in the directions, and it's kind of rinse repeat, right? So I go to my filters, click the plus icon, add the audio monitor function, click OK. We're going to point that to cable A, our virtual cable A. And then audio monitor 2, point that to our headphones. And then now I can hear this audio clip play, and then so can my students. And that's really the goal. One of the things I also like to add too is this link option. So if I go back to one of the scenes that I've created here, and I go look at my snow option, this media source is the globe icon, which I actually forget what it's called. It's called browser, right? So you create a browser option. And really what this is this is a link that calls in this snow. I'll go ahead and copy this. I actually got it from Twitch. So, and there's a whole bunch of them out there, but I'll copy this link for you guys. But really what you can do is change the flake color, change the speed, change the size, opacity. I don't think you should mess with it. Looks ugly. Same thing with the shadow, and I would leave accumulate off because you just get a whole bunch of snow at the bottom of your screen. Looks kind of cheesy. And then this would be an overlay that would kind of take up, just a fraction of the room on the OBS interlay, but you just stretch it so that it goes, across the entire thing. And then when you turn this on, you could, when you're in lecture and you're asking a question and you're not getting any responses, like, guys, it's getting a little cold in here. It's getting a little chilly, and you turn the snow on and you get some laughs and you get some giggles, and then someone eventually jumps in. It's like, okay, well, what about this? I didn't think of it this way, right? And you get that class participation you're really looking for. Some of my go-tos are like, I'll ask a question, I'll wait 30 seconds, and then it's like silent as the grave, right? And then you get a couple chuckles, of course, right? And then, there's a whole mess of them that I kind of have that I kind of work through, but it's just a good way to add some extra input, some extra visuals to kind of stimulate conversation, stimulate discussion, and so forth. And so you can add as many of these as you want, and then you can just turn them off or turn them on as you kind of see fit, which is really cool. So I've built kind of all these scenes so that I can teach class, I think, the way that, incorporates incorporates and facilitates discussion and learning and productivity. Granted, I spend, maybe 2 minutes each course period with these like little add-ins where they just play for, 10 seconds. And, even though we're losing those 10 seconds each time I hit a button, let's just say, or 5 seconds each time I hit a button, the reality is that the students are more willing to participate and willing to learn for all those minutes afterwards. And so these little extras along the way really, really do make a big difference, right? So the time that I am spending with the students is way more productive and way more valuable. Plus, you also kind of get the kudos for, taking the initiative to go the extra step to really be invested in their learning and their development through the course, right? So it shows that you're committed, right? And you should be, right? As a teacher, inspiring young minds and inspiring young students, learning something new is something we do all the time. And then, applying it certainly is something we do all the time. And that's exactly what this is about. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at the last couple steps here. The last step is telling OBS how to push all this information out. Once you got it all linked and pointed in the right direction, you need to go to settings and then map these in the right direction. And this is relatively simple. So we're going to go to our settings icon inside of OBS. And then I go to audio. And on your desktop audio is going to be global, set to cable B. And then your advanced audio monitoring device is going to be global, cable A. And that's it. That's all you have to do. These are the two things. I do have one other thing that I wanted to talk about just real quick. So in Zoom, there's a couple settings that are rather convenient. One of them that I would definitely turn on under video is the HD option. So if you don't have this checked, you're definitely going to want to make sure that this is your default. The other default here is that your camera be set not to your webcam, but to the OBS virtual camera. Again, OBS virtual camera is a collection of scenes, and the cool thing is you get to cycle through these scenes. The last thing is that when you decide to share, like my right screen, the resolution of your right screen is directly dependent on how good your internet connection is. So if you're having problems with the internet connection, this resolution will drop down and might not be legible, right, to your students. So if that's the case, or maybe you have spotty internet, then reading off of this essentially virtual camera through Zoom might not be the best scenario. In which case, what I would tell you to do is just to default to your screen shares inside of Zoom. The normal share screen, select the share screen icon. And I even have a button for that in OBS, right? I can click the button for Zoom and then hit the share icon. And without me ever going to Zoom, it would pop up this little share link that would show. And, I could click the scene. So there's some really handy things you can do. The last thing I keep on saying the last thing. And maybe this is the last thing. I don't know. I'll keep you guys tuned in. Is if you really want to nerd out on this, right? The only piece of hardware that might make you a little bit more efficient is like this Stream Deck. Now it's called a Stream Deck because it's like highly used in streamers, but the reality is like, you don't have to be a streamer to use this. In fact, we're kind of like streamers when we're giving lecture, right? Like we are in front of the camera and we're delivering information to an audience. That's what streamers do. But anyway, I'll just call this a sound deck for the lack of better words. But what this allows you to do is to tie your scenes to OBS. Oh no, I hope I'm not. I just accidentally clicked OBS. I'm watching OBS again. We'll click cancel on that. But I can go to like the me screen or the full screen, or the bio screen, or the right screen. And just by pressing these buttons, right, I can toggle through my different scenes. The other thing I can do is I can toggle in these overlays. So like here I have my Bueller overlay. I have my Spock overlay. So I can hit the Spock icon and Spock says live long and prosper. I have this is the way, I have spoken, and just some funny, goofy things that you can add to your classes just to add some pizzazz. And, I have a whole list of them. Now, you don't need these. You don't need this per se. This is just a really convenient way for you to not have to go make that click inside of OBS. There's just easy buttons. Essentially, this is like a fancy keyboard, right, that has a macro built in that fires off those scenes or these little extras. But if that's something you're interested in, these run about $100 to $150. And really, that's probably the most expensive thing that you would have to do to get everything up and running and add this little extra. It's not necessary because in reality, you could just come into OBS and then click the hide show buttons, and that would work just fine. So hide shows it, unhide it, makes it go away. it's just a little faster when you have the Stream Deck, right? And it's just a little bit more convenient. You don't have to scroll down a list and whatnot. And so that's kind of cool. So generally speaking, OBS is free. You can download that. Virtual cables A and B is a donation of like $4.60. And then the audio monitor file is free. And so for this whole kit and caboodle to work, you're in it for less than $5. And if you want to be a super pro at it, then maybe you spend the $100 to $150, get the Stream Deck and program that, into I don't know why I was holding my hands like that, into OBS, and then integrate those easy push buttons. Just to give you a visual about what Stream Deck looks like, I'll go ahead and launch that application. The app is free, so you can play around with it. You can play around with the app before you actually get the device, which is what I ended up doing, just to make sure that this is something that I wanted. But you can build in the icons, you can build in the macros, and then kind of build in your scene layouts. And then here I have my zoom options, which are really nice. I have some timers that are built in. So if I click on my zoom options, I can, mute, take off my audio, silence everyone, ask everyone to be unsilenced, or unmuted rather. And then my timers, there's some timers that you can build in, like 3, 5, and 10-minute timers, great for presentations depending on what class you're teaching. And just really an excellent productivity tool, not only for my students to keep them engaged, not that I'm boring, but it's Zoom, right? But then also for me to stay on top of class and timings and deliveries and all that good stuff too. So really fantastic tool. I've had nothing but success with it. My students love it. I have great feedback through Blackboard and all the surveys from it. And I would highly recommend anyone who's willing or wants to go the extra yard, the extra 9 yards to get this implemented, that you do it. And it's a lot of fun, and you're going to enjoy it, and you're not going to be burned out of Zoom. It's a new adventure for you. And, I can't recommend it more. So this is Adam Hughes. I'm a professor at USC. I like what I do. I like being an engineer. I like being a professor, right? Those are my two things. And I like to have fun doing it. And this is how I have fun. So if you like this video, I'd greatly appreciate a subscribe. If you watch it all the way through, I can't thank you enough, right? It took me a long time to figure this out. I went through a lot of different software to figure out what exactly works just the best. And I found it. This is it. This is the streamlined version of everything that's out there on the internet for making this work in Zoom and OBS and, all the different components. Hey, I'm Adam Hughes. Thank you for watching my video. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and be sure to check out this next video, kind of showcasing how exactly I use OBS in Zoom with my students. Just the streamlined version of how I use the software, how I use the tools at my fingertips to make my classes fun, exciting, and enjoyable. Thanks for watching. Fight on.